Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Duels of the Spellslingers tournament number... Actually, we're not going to do a tournament this time. At this moment, so the the current runners of the YouTube channel, we will be still doing regular monthly tournaments, but we wanted to add some videos to help newer players, especially since the game officially launched with very little fanfare, oddly enough. Version 1.0 as of August the 4th, 2022. By the way, there is a very active Discord. I don't really know how to link the link because it keeps changing, but if you do Google Spellslingers Discord, you will find it. Alternatively, you can find the Discord. I think if you go to the Google Play Store and you talk and you ask and you say you go to the developers part, though, I think they link the Discord there. In any case, I wanted to introduce this game to especially the newer players. So this is Spellslingers. It's basically just like Hearthstone in the way the mana generates, but the spells and the way the game plays is very much like Magic. So just for the newer players out there, to start off, a little side note, housekeeping. If you go to the top left, that cog button over here, you can actually change the graphic settings and especially the audio settings. Personally, for me, I don't like playing with the music. I absolutely hate it. But I do want to have, the sound effects. I love the sound effects. The voiceovers, I could do without. So a little here, people can talk here or there, it's fine. And then I just don't care about the crowd. And there's also the account. So there's this account button. I don't want to click on it because actually it'll show your unique user ID. And if you have access to that, they can restore your account. If you have access to your unique ID, you can also link your Wizards of the Coast ID, your Gmail, you can link it up. If you have purchase problems, you have other issues, Android issues, iOS issues. So you can click on the account and you can show the devs what's your account, what you're running, and they can help you sort of solve all the issues. So that's some housekeeping. But on to the biggest question that everyone asks, what is the bestest cards and Planeswalkers? So off the top, this game has been in beta since, I guess, 2.5 years now. I've been playing for the last 1.5 years, and in the last half year or so, we've been doing monthly tournaments. So we did tournament number 5 recently, we concluded. And so my understanding of this is, as of this game, even in patch 1.0, with the release of Vivian, a very cool Planeswalker, by the way, of all, I think it's 14 or 12 Planeswalkers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, rather 16 Planeswalkers. There is no hard answer what's the best. It really depends on your playstyle. But as new players, all you guys have access to Chandra, and that's actually a very good thing because Chandra is a very rush, as you guys know, a very rush face damage Planeswalker, and you want to craft your deck to end the game anywhere between 4 to 6 turns, especially if you're playing against the slower players like Jace, slower Planeswalkers like Nissa, Kiora, who have to build up their mana, or build up, board control and stuff like that, or even against Teferi. So if you want to play and you want to win fast and grind out wins, grind out chests to get more crafting materials, play Chandra. If you have enough to unlock, you can play Angrath, who's black and red and works around dealing face damage and some sneak with the black cards. Even Kaya, black and white, but she's a little harder, and you don't really start with any black or white cards, right? Because you start with Chandra and stuff, so she's a little hard to play. And then also Nahiri, who's red and white. So as you can see, there's a red theme going on, face damage, haste. Creatures don't have summoning sickness, they have haste. So I'm going to dive into the card choices. So let's exit this. I have all the Planeswalkers and cards because I actually spent money during the beta, and so we get all that money back and we can just buy all the cards again. So in any case, so let's go search for some red cards that are really good, and I'm going to do the mythics. So if you have either the money or you have the materials, craft Zozu. It is the one red mythic. It's a 0/4 with haste. When it attacks, it gets +1 for each of your opponent's mana gems. It's super effective against Nissa, Kiora, and other Planeswalkers who take a long time and even grow their mana gem pool. So Zozu coming out at 4, sort of turn 4 at 4 costs, with 4 HP at 4 costs. There's not a lot of creatures that can answer it. Only a few green creatures can really answer that. So Zozu is the one mythic. It's red, so it goes well with Chandra, who is red. It goes well with Angrath, who's black and red. It goes well with Nahiri, who's red and white. So again, it goes along with that theme. Let's look at some of the other red cards that are not mythic. So let's look at some of the epic ones. So the biggest one that stands out is Two-Headed Hellhound. This deals double damage. So even if it attacks a creature, even though it says it's 1/2, it'll actually deal 2 damage. If you buff this up with Nahiri's Stoneforge Blade to give it a 2 damage, it will actually deal 4 damage. If you buff this up with other creatures that give it plus damage, like let's say it becomes a 3/2, it'll actually do 6 damage. So actually, let's look at another red card that can buff it up. So a very common card, I think, is the Sword Cannoneer. Where is it? It is not here. My apologies, ladies and gentlemen. It's actually probably a rare. So let's just look at red cards and creatures. So there we go. It is right. Nope. It was here. Reset, creatures, red, go. All right. So Sword Cannoneer is, I can't see it at the moment. I think it's because it's Chandra's card. There we go. Sword Cannoneer debuts and it gives a friendly creature +2 as a permanent buff. So if you give +2 to that Two-Headed Hellhound earlier we saw, it becomes a 3/2, but it actually does 6 damage. So that's why it's so effective, all right? So that you can add to a red deck. We also have other red cards we were looking at earlier, so go back to red and epic. We also have Ball Lightning. So it's 3 mana, 6/1 trample haste, but it dies at the end of your turn. So most people don't block it because, you know, it'll do 6 face damage. So that's another way to get in face damage. You can also buff this up, again with Sword Cannoneer, that gives +2. It can become like an 8/1, and it does face damage for 8 damage. You can also combo this interestingly with a very specific thing called Fling. So Fling destroys a friendly creature, and it deals 3 damage to an enemy. So what you can do is you can play Ball Lightning. If you have 4 mana, you spend 3 mana to play Ball Lightning. It does 6 damage to the face, nobody blocks it. And then before it gets destroyed at the end of your turn, you cast Fling to kill it and do another 3 damage to an enemy. An enemy could be a creature or someone's face. So for 4 mana, you could do 9 damage. Although you have no board presence, and that is an issue, but you could do 9 face damage, which is a very powerful way to end the game. So that's one of the rare, or rather red cards, Fling, that can help you end it. So again, Fling is a red card. It goes well with Chandra as a red planeswalker. Goes well with Angrath, red and black. And then it goes well with, of course, Nahiri, who's red and white. So I'm going to review also the red Molten Monastery. So this is the land. It's a special land for red. Starting at turn 5, you have a 40% chance, which is pretty high. Most of the other lands only have a 30 or 20% chance. It's a 40% chance to draw a second card. But that second card, if you don't use it, you discard it. And when you do proc and do that 40% chance and draw the card, you don't get an extra mana gem. So when you're playing these burn decks of Chandra, the burn decks of Angrath, and Nahiri, and you're going to use Molten Monastery, you want to keep your costs low. So lots of 1 cost, lots of 2 costs, lots of 3 costs. As you can see, 1, 2, and 3 make up, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24 cards out of the 30 cards. I could have just counted the last 6. Your deck has 30 cards. 24 cards of the 30 cards cost 3 mana or less. So you want to keep drawing them. You don't want to have drawing issues, so that's why a lot of these Chandra, Angrath, and Nahiri guys decide to use Molten Monastery to draw more cards, along with Fling and the Ball Lightning and the Two-Headed Hellhound, stuff like that. Some of the other interesting red combo cards are maybe like Okun the Crusher. It's a 3 mana and it's a 4/4, which is super powerful at 3 mana. Most 3 manas do not have 4/4 stats. In fact, I don't think any of them do except for this one. And after the opponent draws a card, it becomes a +1 damage. So every card it draws, it gets +1 damage. So usually when you play it, because it's a 4/4, and the next turn, it's immediately a 5/4 because the opponent drew 1 card. So that's another hard card to deal with at 3 mana cost. Some of the interesting combos. So let's go to black, because we had Angrath, right, with black. The reason why we have black, because black is known for sneak. Silent Prowler, 2/1 sneak. Counterfeiter, 2/1 sneak, but it's 2 mana. After this damages your opponent, add a copy of a random card from their deck to your hand. You can get card removal, you can get board control, you can get mana gem, like you can get whatever card in their deck randomly one of the 30 and put that in your hand. So not only is it a guaranteed 2 damage and a body, to block something or do more damage or whatever, whenever it does damage, it also allows you to steal not steal, but copy a card. So it's very powerful. The other card that everyone wants when you're playing Angrath, in order to trigger his passive, you want this guy, Vengeful Brute. When it debuts, it does 2 damage to each player. Angrath's passive gives +1 if your opponent was dealt damage. So creatures you summon get +1 if your opponent took damage. And so Vengeful Brute basically procs his passive. So when you cast Vengeful Brute for 2 mana, it does 2 damage to everybody, and it immediately gets +1. It becomes a 4/2. It procs itself. It basically procs Angrath's passive. So Vengeful Brute is good in Chandra. Again, more face damage. It's good for Angrath as well. So that's another one. Some of the other ones, sometimes people also get, is Silent Strike, 4 mana. It gives a friendly creature +2 damage, which is kind of, right? But the most important thing it gives is Sneak. And again, Sneak is that thing where it can't be blocked for the turn. Interesting mechanic, by the way. Sneak is only used up if the opponent has a card that can block it. If you attack with a creature with Sneak and the opponent has no cards or no creatures to block, Sneak is not used up. So that's another interesting mechanic, and so some people like to use that Sneak. By the way, there's another rare card, Virtus the Veiled, 4 mana, 3/4. After Virtus damages your opponent, you add that spell we were looking at, you add a Silent Strike to your hand. So basically, he will be cast for 4 mana. The next turn he attacks, he will be a 3/4. He has Sneak, so he'll do 3 damage. And then if he does damage successfully, you'll get another Sneak card, or rather Silent Strike, into your hand. So that's another very good black card to have for Angrath, or for Chandra if you're doing, Black Splash. Some of the white cards for Nahiri, if you do like to play Nahiri, some of the white cards that she gets is, I think most people do, is like, Sun Empire Brawler. Every time it attacks, it gets +1/+1. Very straightforward stuff. But things like Leonin War Leader, it's very difficult, very hard to deal with. Adds a random white creature that costs 2 or less to your hand. So the moment you cast this for 3 mana, everyone's targeting it. And so you have room to deal damage with your other creatures, with like your Ball Lightning, like your 2-headed Hellhound, because this thing is such a big threat. Every time it attacks, it gives you another, 2-cost creature or less. Everyone's going to want to deal with it. Another one for Nahiri is sometimes they go for like Ragna Redeemer, prevents all damage you would take during a turn, so stuff like that. And especially this one, Stoneforge Mystic used to be a mythic card. Now it's an epic card, used to be a mythic. When it debuts, it gives you a mystic weapon. You draft one of 3 choices. Mystic weapon almost always gives you +1/+1 and a random draft upgrade. Upgrade means like it gives you Sneak, give you Flying, give you Relentless, give you Armor, give you Haste, whatever. If it doesn't give that random upgrade, it'll either be +3/+2, +4/+1, or +1/+4. So almost every single Nahiri deck will have Stoneforge Mystic, so you can buff whatever guy you want and attack. Another good card for Nahiri is this one. This is the perfect mythic card for to combo off with Nahiri's passive. After you target a friendly creature, that creature gets +1/+1. As you guys know, if you don't know already, Nahiri's passive allows you to, for 1 mana, activate and give Stoneforge Blade. So you have to target a friendly creature. And with this mythic, every time you target it gets a permanent +1/+1 buff, unless that creature gets destroyed or something like that. So that's another good combo. So these are some of the cards for red and black and white that I would choose to aim for if I was a new player and I was trying to, grind wins quickly, win within 4 to 6 turns. All my cards cost anywhere between 1 to 3 mana, maybe a few 4 mana costs, like Virtus the Veiled, like Dane of the Capuchin, just in case. But yeah, Chandra, Angrath, Nahiri Planeswalkers, with most of those cards, should allow you to get to pretty high into the league. So let's see over here. So when you guys go to the leagues, you can see you can go from playing league to bronze, silver, gold. So I'm in gold right now, but back in beta, almost all of us, there was like 50 plus or 100 of us actually. We're all in like mythic league, right? Well, eventually I'll get there. But yeah, the fastest way to get there is just playing these Planeswalkers to win in 4 to 6 turns. So I hope you guys liked today's video. If you do have any questions, please do leave a like, or rather, please leave a comment. Just ask. We also have the active Discord, so please do join that. Feel free to ask questions on there. And yeah, we'll hope to see you guys in the next video. Take care.